All right, so we'll start the meeting. And so Rachel, do you want to go ahead and let it talk to us?
Yeah, I think we should probably kind of go back up to the top and just review our new policy that we are considering, which is policy GAPB, and I've titled that Duty to Report Criminal Offenses. And I believe where we've landed, and thank you for pointing out my the language that we had in the draft we were reviewing, Jessica. I believe where we landed is that it's going to be applicable to all employees. We're not going to list volunteers in there. We're going to allow that to be addressed through the MVP program. It's going to state that the notification is for if an employee is arrested, charged with, or convicted of any misdemeanor or felony, but that minor traffic citations issued while driving a personal vehicle don't have to be reported. But the traffic citations related to driving under the influence must be. And then it clarifies and has a reference to policy EDAA, which states that if you get in an accident or a citation issued while you're driving a district-owned vehicle, you need to report. And then it finally states that we will evaluate instances in which an employee has been arrested, charged with, or convicted of any criminal offense, and I think what we should probably say is any misdemeanor or felony, because we're trying to be specific and make sure we're not including minor offenses in there. And then determine whether that employee can continue to be actively employed in their position. And so, for example, if an employee was charged with a very, very serious violent crime and they worked with small children, we would be making a decision about how to address that to, ensure student safety and meet community expectations. Any other discussion that we need to have about that, other than that we wanted to do a first and second read?
Yeah, that we wanted to do a first and second read. So the first read would be the end of this month, the second meeting, and then the second read would be the first meeting of June, the first meeting that we have scheduled for June.
Okay.
No, I think it's fine. The way I like the updates, and I think it's a necessary and a good add for us.
Okay. Then on administrator evaluation, this is an existing policy, CGI. This has not been updated since April of 2015. And as we discussed, we wanted to look at it based on some other sort of personnel updates we're doing, personnel policy and procedure updates we're doing for administrators. And so in terms of changes from the present policy language, we've added a sentence, a second sentence in that first paragraph there. And that is verbatim from Kansas statute 72-2409 that basically dictates evaluation policy requirements. So I thought it'd be helpful to just have that kind of statutory language in there. And then for the second paragraph, I've clarified that, this review cycle that's referenced in this policy is for licensed administrators. Now, I'm positive that all other administrators are regularly reviewed. It's just that there's very specific requirements for those that are licensed. So I wanted to clarify that. And then, as I said, and we can talk about that, the current policy language has this sentence about accessibility of evaluations, and I didn't think that was necessary to be in our administrator evaluation policy, because we have, as noted there for you guys, policy GBI, which addresses the availability of evaluation records for all employees, and then policy GAK addresses personnel records. So I didn't think it was necessary. It seemed a little out of place to me, since we already have other policies that address that. And then that last sentence there, we don't have that manual. That's not what we call our document. It's just a handbook. Any questions or concern or discussion we think we might need to have about this policy?
Rachel, can you clarify for me that, so this language, it says, the second paragraph, administrators that are required to be licensed will be evaluated annually for the first 4 years of employment. Is that right?
Yes. I'm going to pull up the statute here. The language is horrible, as most statutory language is. And so if you Google Kansas Statute 72-2409, and you look at section D of that statute, and I'm going to read it to you and you'll understand why KASB summarizes it. It says, employees in the first 2 consecutive school years of employment shall be evaluated at least one time per semester by not later than the 60th school day of the semester. Any employee who is not employed for the entire semester shall not be required to be evaluated. During the 3rd and 4th years of employment, the employee shall be evaluated at least one time each school year by not later than February 14th. After the 4th year of employment, every employee shall be evaluated at least once in every 3 years, not later than February 15th of the school year in which the employee is evaluated. So that is the summary language that KASB provided. And just so you know, the previous statute, 72-2408, specifies that employees means licensed employees of school districts.
And then we go on to say that then after that first 4 years where it adheres to all that specificity spelled out in statute, it will be consistent with the annual schedule of evaluation for a broader body of administrative personnel. Is there a separate policy that spells out what that? So then it's just annual. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm getting it right. So the first 4 years, it'll match what's set out in statute, and then after that, it'll be annual evaluation.
Right. Yes.
Consistent with other administrative personnel. Okay.
So the first paragraph would apply to all administrators. So every person who is considered an administrator, they are going to be evaluated by the superintendent or the designee, and they'll have a personnel file. This second paragraph is just to comply with the Kansas statute for evaluation of licensed school personnel. So that just affirms that we are going to comply with those legal requirements.
Do we need to say anything in this first paragraph that our broader pool of administrative personnel, non-licensed administrative personnel are evaluated annually, or is that in another policy?
We could definitely do that. And Dr. Fulton, if that, I assume the intention is to have an annual evaluation for us sort of other group like Russ and me and Drew. What are your thoughts there? I can't hear him.
See, he's muted.
Yeah, there's an expectation of annual evaluation of cabinet members as well. So,
I'm thinking just the word annually after shall be evaluated annually in writing.
Yeah. Are you comfortable with that, Doctor? That would be in accordance with our practices, right?
that would be accordance with our practice, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so add that too. That makes it equal. Licensed and the ones that don't happen to be licensed with the state.
Got it. So now the first sentence reads, administrative personnel shall be evaluated annually in writing by the superintendent or the superintendent's designee.
And so documents, though, then only 3 years, not less than 3 years from the date. So you don't have to keep them forever. So like an evaluation more than 3 years, you can purge from the file. Is that right?
Theoretically, you could. And again, that's just the language in the statute. What we could do, although I don't think it says anything, we could say will be maintained in a personnel file for each administrator in accordance with law. But we do not we do not take anything out of a personnel file. We just don't.
So where does that not less than 3 years from the date of evaluation is made come from?
It comes from that statute 72-2409. And the reason why I put that in there was because 72-2409 says that each board shall adopt a written policy personnel evaluation procedure. Every policy so adopted shall ... provide that all evaluations are to be made in writing and that evaluation documents and responses thereto are to be maintained in a personnel file for each employee for a period of not less than 3 years from the date each evaluation is made.
Okay.
So I read that and I was like, well, the law says that our policy shall provide that. So
Well, we'll just leave it as that, and we can just say that that's statute. So we've just put the statutory language in that first, but practices actually, everything stays in the personnel file, right?
and if you guys want, Sarah and Jessica, if it's helpful, I can add a note that says SMSD practice is to maintain personnel files. I think we may permanently maintain them.
What do we have in our policies about retaining personnel files for like certified staff?
I believe that I don't know that the policy that I have referenced there.
What about GAK and GBI? You said that there was some.
I don't think we have a comprehensive file retention policy as part of our board policies. And I think the state of Kansas probably has a public records retention policy in general that addresses personnel files, and it's probably something like 5 years from date of employment. Let's see, GAK. Oh, well, all GAK says is all records and files maintained by the district should be screened periodically. They're going to be adequately secured. Doesn't have a retention period, which I did not remember seeing that. And GBI does not specify a retention period either. I'm going to see if I can really quickly find what the state of... So usually, states will have record retention policies for public entities. And I'm not sure how great Kansas is in terms of level of detail.
You know what we could do? We could do some research on that and then bring it back to the next policy review committee meeting and see if there's anything that we want to add or change.
If our practice, I mean, I actually think we'd be fine stating what our, I think that we maintain up to, I think what we do is like probably 3 to 5 years after termination of employment is probably what we do.
I'm just thinking it'd be nice for it to be consistent for our HR department's sake to have a similar record retention policy across all of our employees.
Yeah.
How about if we do some research on that, Rachel?
Yep. I can look at that.
And we could bring it back to the next meeting. That would be.
I don't think we have a comprehensive record retention schedule as part of our policies. Yeah, I'm not seeing one. I can definitely look at that. And then if we just want to address that one piece of it at our next meeting, we can do that.
That's fine, unless we need to get this into, we need to, if we're in a, or we need to, do we need to be a fast track on this one or not so much?
No, we're okay.
I think we're okay. I mean, it was one that I wanted to get updated like sooner rather than later, but I don't think we're on a, any timeline that it has to be done this month.
I don't think it's a sticking point or anything. It's just a detail. So you could even just email us just get it updated and email it to us. And I don't think it's gonna, just so long as it's consistent. I think what we're interested in is kind of a consistent across the board, and that it's something that we're doing already. It's our practice. So if you just update it to whatever the practice is, whatever that is, and that it's consistent for employee groups, that would be good.
So I think what we could do, because the statute says that all it has to say is that it will be maintained for a period of not less than 3 years. So I think what we could do is, if our practice is that we maintain evaluations for as long as you're employed and for 5 years thereafter, whatever it is, we could just state that.
Yeah, whatever the practice is, yeah.
Okay. I'll do some research, figure out what that is, make sure that it's in line with any legal requirements, and then I'll shoot you guys an email.
Okay.
Okay.
And CM.
Okay, so CM, this was a KSB suggested update. And so their previous policy was, this policy is just a very simple policy that addresses what happens if an administrator fails to uphold and implement board policy. And they had this language that, you could be subject to disciplinary action by the board, including suspension, demotion, placed on probation, non-renewed, terminated. Those all require board action, except for suspension with pay. And so Dr. Fulton can place administrators on paid leave whenever it's necessary to do so. And we do that as a matter of procedure in practice. And so this was just to clarify that board action is not necessary to suspend with pay. And so it's just a clarification that they suggested, so you don't have someone raising an argument that we needed to have board action to place someone on paid leave.
So the way this reads, though, it's by board action. He's suspended without pay?
Without pay.
Okay, so with pay, you can, Dr. Fulton can do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And that was it. And I saw that as I was going through, their last 3 years of updates. And I thought, that's probably makes sense to do that, because, if we had an instance, and we do have instances where we place administrators on paid leave while we are investigating something that involves implementation of board policy. And I wouldn't want any of them to raise an argument that that the superintendent didn't have the authority to do that, or that Dr. Sumner didn't have the authority to do that because of our board policy.
Okay. Just updating. It was part of the KSB update, though, that we're just, yeah. Okay.
When we share this with the full board, Rachel, will you provide that context? Because on just first look at it, I thought my first question was like, do we want to have the opportunity to suspend with or without pay? I know that's where my head went immediately. So I think just knowing that that'll probably be for the public, our fellow board members, it'll be like, wait, what? So knowing that there's another policy out there that this drives with is important.
Yes, absolutely. I can do that in the document that I do that has the comments that explains the revisions off to the side.
Good. Okay. And then this one then would be able to, well, Jessica, what's your opinion on, we didn't really talk about the timing on these, CGI and CM. Do you think that we need first and second reads on both? Just first reads, since they are already policies we have and we're just tweaking them? Do you think we should go ahead and keep it on the same schedule as the others and do a first and second read on them?
Yeah, I think we could do a first and final on CM. I think there's enough meat to that CGI to warrant 2 reads, but if we would rather just keep them all 3 on the same time frame, that's fine too. If it's just easier for you, Rachel, or
Dr. Fulton, do you have any opinion?
I don't have a preference. I do think when you're making substantive change, a first and second read is warranted, but on the last one in particular, it says it's a relatively minor change. If you just want to read, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's really,
all right.
It doesn't matter to me.
Well, why don't we just do CM would be first and final, since it's not substantive, and CGI, since it has a few more changes in it, we'll go ahead and do that on first and second. And then same with the first policy, GAPB. So those 2 policies would be on the same schedule, and then CM just on a one-time deal.
Makes sense.
That sounds good. And I'll get back to you guys ASAP on the retention of our personnel files.
Okay. Sounds good. So I think we are done. Correct?
Thanks, guys. I think these are in really good shape now.
Great. Awesome. And Terry's she's on the call, so she knows what schedule we're doing these on then too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. All right. Well, she's muted, but that's okay.
Okay, never mind. You couldn't read my lips? Okay, sorry. Rachel, if you could just send me a final of what the changes were that were made, because I don't know if I got all of them or not. I want to make sure I have what you all have.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.